Hello everybody, this is TL ROM Hacks, and this is going to be the first video in a series that serves as a deep dive into what exactly has changed with Tag Anywhere Plus compared to the original Donkey Kong 64 game. I want people to get out of this just a lot of information about different settings and what they can expect when they want to play this ROM hack that I've made. If you want to, you're more than welcome to dive into the ROM hack yourself and kind of just figure things out. But this will kind of be a lighthearted, if not maybe lengthy tutorial on the different settings and maybe what they mean and again, what you can expect to find. We're going to go over in each video maybe one page at a time, because if I slammed it all together, the video would be like an hour and a half long. So I'll try to do these in bite-sized pieces. This being the first video, I wanted to point out our very first settings menu, and it is in fact called settings. So you'll see here on screen that I am just in a fresh install of Tag Anywhere Plus, and I don't even have any save files active. So the first thing we'll notice that is different or new, I'll hit A and go into one of these empty save files. We have a new graphic on the bottom side center for a menu. You can access this menu from here, the save file load screen, or from the pause menu while you're playing the single player adventure mode. So first and foremost, I'll hit up on the D-pad to access what I call our mod menu. And I don't know that I'll necessarily go through these line by line, but now that I'm here in the settings menu, and before I talk more about it, I want to point out that the settings menu, it kind of navigates like most of the other menus do in Donkey Kong 64. So you can use the D-pad in this version, but you can also use the joystick up and down just to go between line items here. And I want to point out that there is also a page indicator in the bottom right. So if I were to, hit up once, I would go to the second page to kind of scroll over, or I could scroll all the way down to just go to the second page again. So be sure to pay attention to that page indicator as you play with the settings here, just because there might be more settings than what you see, at least on the first page. Another big call out I want to have is, again, if you're just wanting to play this experience yourself, but you don't quite understand what does a given setting mean, you can always press the Z button when you're highlighted over a specific option, and that will just give you a little menu that says, hey, this is the option, and this is kind of what it's about. You can press B or Z to go back, and I just wanted to take at least the course of this video and showcase one new feature in every video that I'm really proud of. That for this video will be the new bonus barrels. And before I'm able to show what that means and what that is, I've got to go through a little bit of explanation on and setup on some of these other ones. One big call out I should have is an attribution to a developer by the name of Isotarge. I don't know if they're in the Donkey Kong ROM hacking community anymore, but my project that people are hopefully playing now is based off of their project, which is just called Tag Anywhere. And that's why I called this Tag Anywhere Plus, because originally I took the concept of that Tag Anywhere, I added in some additional animations and some other, fun sound effects, and then the project just continued to grow and grow to the point where it's its own completely new and different thing. But it is really worth giving a really positive and much needed shout out to Isotarge. A lot of the settings you'll see in this first video here are really derived from what Isotarge already did with Tag Anywhere. As we go into more videos, you'll start to see in different menus that I've created, this is what will really set it apart as Tag Anywhere Plus. But this video is, if you've played Tag Anywhere, just that original one, it'll seem pretty familiar, some of these feature sets. And to that point, what is Tag Anywhere? If you've played the original Donkey Kong 64 game, you'll know that if you want to change your playable Kong or your character, you have to go to a specific tag barrel location just to switch from, Donkey Kong to Diddy Kong or something like that. And that can cause a lot of tedious and unnecessary backtracking. So what Tag Anywhere does as a feature is it lets you press a button at most any time and change from one Kong to the next. And that really, again, just cuts down on a lot of the tedious backtracking that this game is kind of infamous for. And that's basically what that first line item there will do, is you can turn this on or off. One thing I should mention is that I had a design philosophy when making this project, and I really just wanted player choice and agency to be king. So I've made a ton of changes, almost 50, not quite 50. So I say, 45 plus, 45 plus changes. And not every one of those changes might be a change that you want to have. So I really tried to give people the ability to make it so that they could play this game in the way that they wanted to play it. That second line item I want to go over is tag controls. It's simply just what button do you need to press in order to trigger that tag anywhere. So I will use either the D-pad, I'm just going to use down, or the joystick, but I'll use the D-pad, the tag controls. And then if you want to change the actual setting, you can hit A to change it from D-pad to left and right, or both. One thing to point out with this one is that if I kept it on left and right, or both, hitting the R trigger button, not sure what you want to call it on the Nintendo 64, but hitting R does also center your camera. So just keep in mind that if you have it set to L and R or both, you will change Kongs as well as seeing the camera kind of center back behind you if it isn't already. So for me, I'm going to keep it on D-pad, and to clarify, that is D-pad left to cycle backwards and D-pad right to cycle forwards. I will skip over a good chunk of these that are in the middle, but I do want to go over the new game spawn. New game spawn is when I start a new game, a fresh save file, where does that adventure begin? For vanilla, that's just the basic experience of showing a cutscene. It's about 5 minutes, and so if you haven't played the game before, choose vanilla because it's a fun and good experience. The next setting in there, though, is tutorial. If you've played the game before, but maybe you're a little bit rusty, you might want to pick tutorial. It'll spawn you right outside of DK's treehouse, where you have to unlock the ground pound move by doing some bonus barrel challenges in order to unlock different moves. And then lastly, if you're just kind of a returning veteran, you're really familiar with Donkey Kong 64, it's walk in the park for you, then I would encourage the DK Isles option. It basically skips the cutscene, skips the tutorial, unlocks those basic fundamental moves, and just lets you kind of pick up from, I have freedom and I can go play and do what I want. This is the start that I'll have. I will talk about these options in the middle, but really kind of quick and briefly. A lot of these options between skip first time events and skip banana and key dances are basically time-saving options. Anytime you turn one of these on, it will basically make it so that something that might have interrupted you as like a brief tutorial or kind of interrupted you with a cutscene through gameplay is sped up or mitigated in one way or another. And again, if you want more details on okay, skip first time events, what does that mean? You can always hit the Z button and it'll give just a better explanation of what that does. So for now, I'm going to keep those off because I kind of like the game holding my hand a little bit and showing some of those fun cutscenes. I will show the new bonus barrels in gameplay. We'll actually go do something to see it visually. But before we do that, I guess I'll just go over the kind of final two options here. The sound test, if I were to turn that on, it's only accessible through the save file load. So if you had the sound test on and you were playing adventure mode, you're not going to see those screens. You basically have to turn the option on, and then I'm going to use D-pad left to navigate. And you'll see I'm on a music test screen. I'll navigate to the left again. And that's the sound effects test. So just a tiny little feature. If you want to take a listen to the different tracks or different sound effects, you're welcome to play with that. But let's go back to the right. And I'll turn off the sound test because we don't necessarily need it. The last one here, skip story cutscenes, is pretty self-explanatory, but I want to call out that skip story cutscenes is specific to a cutscene that would play when you enter a world for the first time, whereas skip first time events is kind of a catch-all for a lot of things you interact with for the first time. So like interacting with B Locker has this little cutscene it shows. Interacting with a banana porter pad has this cutscene that it shows. So the skip first time events is some more of those cutscene oriented things for tiny little tutorials at the start of the game, whereas that other option is just purely the cutscenes when you enter a world for the first time. So I've kind of talked about it a lot. The new bonus barrels is something that I think is really cool and gives you a lot of choice. One thing I'm going to do just so that I can get to a bonus barrel very quickly is I'm actually going to cycle back to our cheats menu, which I will definitely cover in a later video. And I'm just going to turn on this cheat for hold A to fly so that I can quickly get to a new bonus barrel. So all I've really changed here is I've set the new game spawn to DK Isles. I've turned on a cheat code for myself. I'm going to press B to back out and then press A to start the new game. RetroArch does have a fast forward capability, so I'm going to use that just to get through this little cutscene here. And the new bonus barrels, what I mean by that is that it lets you pick which bonus game you're going to play when you enter a bonus barrel. So one of the first and quickest ones I can think, this is me using that cheat code to fly around, is a bonus barrel right here. So what this feature is when it's turned on, you'll see this screen that we're looking at now, where it lets you pick which bonus stage you're going to play. So normally this would have had me play Peril Path Panic on the normal difficulty, and I wouldn't have had any choice. I just would have been injected, I guess, straight to the game, right? So I wouldn't have had any choice. I would have just had to play that. And sometimes that could be really frustrating because there is a very notorious game called Beaver Bother that's a little bit broken. That was, difficult and very frustrating for players. So now you can play Donkey Kong 64, and if you don't ever want to have to go through the stress of playing Beaver Bother ever again, you don't have to. You can actually pick because of this feature. And again, if you would rather be a little bit more of a purist or see the original experience, then turn this feature off, right? You can play it the way that you want to play it. But one thing I'll point out, right, as I talk about Beaver Bother, one thing I wanted to do is not only just be able to pick, let's go to Beaver Bother, not only be able to pick, which specific game, but you can also change the difficulty. I didn't create the concept of difficulty. It's something that is in the game natively. It's just something that I'm exposing so people can understand a little bit better. Easy is going to have, be an easier time. And as you go up the scale in difficulty, hitting, left or right, you'll see that the harder it gets, you basically either have less time or you have to get a certain number of targets or objectives, just a higher number of that. The other thing I think is really cool and that I want to point out is that in that near the bottom section, there's a thing that says time, right? And you change the time with C left or C right. And what this is set up to do is that there are 3 levels. So I will always give you as the first level just the default amount of time. I'll kind of scroll through some options here. You'll see that time is going to change because that is the default time that would have been given on Minecart Mayhem Easy or, Mad Maze Mall Easy. But if we hit C right, we'll see level 2, which is basically just a boost. It's going to be a different amount of time depending upon the game, but it's basically a boost to the time so that if you maybe didn't, you had a hard time with the original amount of time, just give yourself a little bit of a boost and maybe you'll be able to accomplish a task. And then if we hit C right one more time, we'll go to the final stage, which is just infinite time. And that is really if you are frustrated, you're stuck down, I just want to get it. Again, it's really your choice, however you want to play, whether you want to play with the original amount of time, a boosted amount of time to make it a little bit easier, or just infinite to get through the thing, whatever you choose is kind of your choice. That is the end of this first video here. In the next video, we're going to go over just basically the next menu, and that's pretty much how all of these videos are going to follow. So thank you very much for taking some time to listen and see what this game's all about, and I'll see you in the next video.